Her&EU, a European podcast on gender equality. Brought to you by the Martens Centre with Loredana Teodorescu.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode of Her&EU, a podcast on gender equality and women's role in the society. I am Loredana Teodorescu, and our special guest of today is Sofia Zacharaki, Minister of Social Cohesion and Family Affairs of Greece. Minister, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Loredana. Thank you very much for the invitation. And on such important topics that I'm sure that we're going to delve into today.
I'm sure. And let me start, Minister, with your own personal experience. As I said, you are now Minister of Social Cohesion and Family Affairs, but you also, before that, served as spokesperson of your own party, New Democracy, and also as Deputy Minister of Education and Religious Affairs and Tourism. I mean, you have an impressive political career. And looking back, what have been the ingredients of your success? And I'm wondering how being a woman has affected your own career. I mean, was it ever an obstacle or, on the contrary, an advantage?
Loredana, let me share with you that I never expected to have this conversation looking back, let's say 10 years ago, as I never intended to have a political career. It more or less came. I was member of the youth organization of EDS, the European Democrat Students, and YEP. And I think that this is a very solid platform of political participation and the very important notion to me, which is citizenship. Being able, to practice and exercise your rights and raise your voice in a European and international context, not just your local or member state of play. So I would say that the very important incentive for me to be participating in local, in international and European matters came through youth politics. But later, I became a teacher, so I let go of politics. That's why if you ask me, like back in 2014, I would never have expected to have this conversation with Wilfried Martens Center for European Studies, which I appreciate for that. Now, incentives or things that hindered me. When I was back in education, being a woman is very much, let's say, the state of play, or it is the norm. It's not the exception. As we educators seem to be prevailing, women education, female educators prevailing in the class, let's say, level. But moving up, and if you look at the percentage of women who are education leaders in local, regional, or even, let's say, country level, we become fewer and fewer. So you see this difficulty and this gender imbalance also in education. And if I think about politics, then I would say that we women sitting at the decision table are much fewer. And I would say that I faced prejudice even when I was member of, let's say, of the executive board, and people would look at me if I were to take a photocopy machine, go over and, run some errands, I would be the first one to look at. And reaching the point where I am today, I would say that the most, let's say, difficult part of my career was when I was appointed a minister for family and social cohesion, and people from the far right attacked me that I am single and with no children. So I would say that it was a very difficult point of my career, which I had, to be able to build confidence and respond that I usually judge people on merit and not on marital status.
Of course. So you had to prove yourself, as usually happens to many women in leading positions. But I think you are a very good example of how engaged and committed young people can and should have a political career, which is great. And now you have a huge responsibility. You are leading the first ever ministry specifically dedicated to tackling the demographic challenge in Greece. This is a challenge, I would say, for Europe as a whole. So you can lead a little bit by example. And recognizing that, you have developed your first national action plan, which is data-driven and science-based. And I think this is very important to start from research to understand why people are not having children anymore. So I'm wondering, what are the main findings of your research?
Looking back at this learning journey, which started almost 7 months ago, as our ministry is a newly established ministry, it only started last July 2023. So from a presidential decree, we had to move to implementation. We were actually running before we even crawled. So it's a little bit of a demanding task. I would say that the first findings were discouraging. They still continue to be. We have this decrease in birth rate since 1981. We saw the births in Greece plummeting after a certain time. I would say that it really concurred with the crisis years, the financial crisis years. And we also saw the big unrest in the natural deficit, which means more deaths than births. It's been going on for about 20 years now. And it's been a very long journey, which is very difficult to overturn. So I would never say that the main goal is to reverse the trend, because we cannot really go back. Births will never be more than deaths, because we already know how many women we are at this reproductive age, how many women they are at the reproductive age. And I would say that the most realistic goal is to a little bit be able to make births steady as much as we can in the following 5 years, and try to help a little bit the local aspect of demography, which to me is very important. I take very much the notice of the toolbox on demography of the European Commission that President von der Leyen and then Vice President Dubravka Suica introduced. We have used a lot of ideas also from best practices from other countries. We also see, though, that it's not just a matter of fiscal policy, it is also a lifestyle option that has already been instilled in many young people. The thing that a little bit, discourages them from starting a family, and it's not just money. It's also the way you live and the way you want to live. For me, the battle of demography is reinforcing options, reinforcing your choices, to be able to reinforce the decision of a young person to start a family should they wish so.
Indeed, I guess that this is a very important issue. So giving the opportunity to choose to have a family, to have a children without giving up on career, especially for women. And I know that this is a specific pillar of your strategy, so this reconciliation of work and family life. What specific measures you are implementing or are you planning to implement in this regard?
Loredana, we started implementing them a while ago by a very important reform on maternity leave, paternal leave. So we extended maternity leave to 9 months, also by giving the same opportunity to women working in private sector, self-employed, and people and female workers, correcting a long-standing disparity between the public and the private sector. This started last October 2023. And this will also be extended starting fall 2025 in other fields, also women working in banks and other sectors which have been left out of the reform. We also gave fathers the opportunity, or the other member of the household, if it is the same-sex couple, we gave them opportunity to have 7 months of the said leave. And we give the opportunity to the person that takes the leave to receive the minimum wage alongside the other child benefits that they receive. We also introduced a birth allowance starting 2020. So it was a lump sum of €2,000 that was given to every child that was given, with some, of course, income restrictions, but not a lot. Almost 93% of the couples received it. So it was a very generous, let's say, benefit. And this year, January 2024, we increased the number. So if you have a child, the first child, you get 2,400, so increased by 400. If it is the second dependent child, it is 2,700. If it is the third child, it is 3,000. And if it is more than 4 children, it is 3,500. Alongside, we are increasing, starting beginning of 2025, the birth benefit. It's another benefit that is given every 2 months to different sizes of family. And we are also increasing the percentage of allowance for children. So we are centering our efforts on reinforcing child, and we hope that this reform with the benefits, we will also increase the ratings of Greece, of the member state, in child poverty index. Alongside the reconciliation of family and work life, this work-life balance, we are also introducing a lot of allowances when we refer to transferring public servants to positions where they can be relocated with their families, whether you are a public servant, whether you serve the military, you are a doctor, or you're a teacher, in order to help families reunite. And of course, another important factor in our policy as regards demography, it is of course childcare. We seriously increased budget on childcare units, the 0 to 4, let's say, lifespan, where we have the childcare centers, and also introducing a very innovative method, the nannies of the neighborhood, as we call them, women that you can, or men, that you can employ with public funds in order to come and take care of the child. They are certified, they are taught first aid, so you can easily have the help of these people when you are away at work.
So very concrete measures and also incentives. And speaking of nannies, it used to be assumed that a woman who stays at home is more likely to have children than a woman who pursues a career. Now we know that this is an outdated notion. It appears that having a stable job allows those who wish to have children and allows them to choose to do so. So increasing the participation of women in the labor market is an important aspect of tackling the demographic challenge. And it has to do with redistributing care responsibilities, fostering gender equality in professional careers. I mean, there are lots of measures related to this, which, by the way, also the Martin Center is addressing in its 70 proposals. So how are you addressing these specific aspects?
You see that this stay-at-home mom, as you said, it is a notion that used to be more rigid also in Mediterranean countries. So I'd say that in Greece, as it happened in Italy and other countries, it was more apparent, more prevalent. But we see that this is decreasing. And it is decreasing also not just for financial reasons, because for a family to make do and to survive financially, both members of the household have to work, but it's also a need that came with increasing skills and increasing education level also, not just in the city centers, but at the regional dimension of that. I would say that, first of all, we have a much more rigid legal framework when it comes to offering full equality between men and women, the equality, let's say, balance. Now, it was recognized, Loredana, by World Bank back in 2023 that Greece actually enjoyed the status of being one of the countries that offered full equality in all laws. So the equality, let's say, provision is really respected in every legislative piece that you might find, and it affects the equality index. So furthermore, to the increased women participation in the labor market, which is one of the basic pillars of our effort alongside Ministry of Labor, we also already established a quota of requiring at least a 25% participation of women as board members in listed companies. And in this year, we will also envisage the transposition of the directive of increasing this percentage of women in BODs, in board of directors of listed companies. We are also thinking of expanding this, Loredana, to public companies too, and public entities. So we have to set the good example not just for the private sector to do it and increase the role of women in a board of directors. Also, we will continue to advance in this direction by the incorporation of the transposition of Directive Directive 2381 of 2022 to enhance also the equal pay. The equal pay directive between men and women. It is a very important directive. It is also a day in September that we celebrate it, but we need more than days of celebration. We need more of implementation. And we also introduced an initiative here in the Ministry of Social Cohesion and Family Affairs, the SHARE program, which it is awarded. It is an equality label which is awarded to companies that adopt equal treatment policies. And very soon, we will allocate 16 million from the RRF, the Recovery and Resilience Fund, to train 80,000 employees in diversity issues. So we want to cultivate more the acceptance and participation, let's say, feeling in the private sector as well. That's why we will be funding this seminar in order to equip these 80,000 workers in the private sector with basic information about equality, acceptance, and inclusion.
That's great. And I think that indeed we need legislative and fiscal intervention, but at the same time, we need to work in terms of culture, mindset, bias, stereotypes, education. I know that education is something that you care about and definitely plays an important role here. So maybe one final question related to this. When it comes to culture, mindset, also having role models, successful stories, it's very important. And I'm wondering if you had a person who inspired you throughout your life.
Yes, there is one, a political leader, a woman that is in politics and has been in politics for many years. I started appreciating her because she made a huge difference in the constituency where my parents come from. It's a very mountainous area, very much, neglected sometimes in the past. And this is Dora Bakogianni. She's a member of parliament. She used to be the mayor of Athens. She's now the member of parliament representing the municipality, the constituency of Chania, which is in Crete. And I'd say that her personal example and this pedagogic, let's say, educational role that she played is that she is a woman of stamina, of resilience. She has received a lot of attacks, and I think that she handled everything with really with calm and with a lot of a personal style that really inspires. And this is a woman who hasn't let go of her feminine, let's say, aspect. She hasn't let go of herself, but she's really inspiring younger people, not just women, also men, in order to pursue their own career, should that be in politics or their professional walk of life, whatever that may be. So I would say it was her calm postures, it was her firm political beliefs and her ideology that has really inspired a lot of people, and of course her efficiency and efficacy.
That's inspiring, listening to her story. Minister, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and for this insightful conversation. Thanks to the Martin Center for making this podcast possible, and thank you all for listening. We will be back soon with a new episode of Her&EU, so stay tuned.
That was today's episode of Her&EU. Subscribe to our podcast for more.